Dr. Pete Chambers on Friday, August 30th, 2024, at 12:38 p.m. Eastern Time. Our mutual friend Baz was supposed to join us, but God looked at him and said he's too tall and handsome and
There
stunning,
you
and so I'm going to strike him down with a little bit of a flu, and so that's why Baz isn't with us. It's God's
go.
justice. That's how I accept it.
Yeah, there you
Um,
go.
we've kind of been bouncing this episode back and forth, and by that I mean, as always, I'm rescheduling and canceling on people because I'm a total flake and don't know how to take this business seriously. But you're a friend of Baz, which means you're a friend of mine, and just to jump into it, Dr. Chambers, could you introduce yourself, and then we can kind of get
Sure.
to what is primarily happening at the border.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm been in the Army since September of '83. I came in under Ronald Reagan, believe it or not. Got out in 2022. I left active duty in 2015 and went to the Texas National Guard, where I finished up on the border with Operation Lone Star. So we kicked off this version of the border mission. There's been previous versions, but this is the one during the Biden administration when the federal government basically took its hands off of their job and allowed for an invasion to take place. So that's what we did. We went down there to with 600 soldiers. We started with. We ended up with about 10,000 on the border, just from the Texas National Guard alone. A lot of people don't understand this or know this, that the Texas National Guard system is probably right up in the 12th to 15th largest military in the world when it comes to the capabilities and capacity. So it is Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, and that's what we did. So going down the border, we did uh, essentially listening posts, observation posts on 1,250 miles of Texas border. I was responsible for the initial sector with regard to both medical and as liaison. I was a former Green Beret, still am in my heart, but still my job was to liaise with Department of Public Safety, the board TAC teams, with the Border Patrol tactical teams, et cetera. And that capacity, what I call looking for a needle in a stack of needles, because you're looking for people that want to do ill will to this government, this country, and we tried to ferret those out and to find them. The problem is that when you got tens of thousands of people coming across a night, sometimes you're looking at it's a lot easier to move things across the border. So I did that. I quit doing that job when the shot mandates came out, the COVID vaccine thing, and literally they they told me, you got to tell the troops to take it. And I was like, no, I'm going to give them informed consent. I'm going to tell them the good, the bad, and the ugly of this thing. And this was before there was really any information. So I gave an informed consent and said, hey, you guys are young. You don't need it. Don't take it. And here's why. And if you want to take it, it's up to you. And very few did. But that pissed off the generals, and the generals came and talked to me. I had been in for 39 years between active guard and reserves. I said, sorry, sir, that's an unlawful order. And they fired me from my job. No problem. I had plenty of time in to retire. I did. I came to work here. This is the think tank, which is we call the Remnant A team. A bunch of guys like me, former retired military, everything from SEALs to Tier 1 operators, Green Berets, Marines, you name it, we got it. And so we work on the problem sets on the border now, helping out municipalities, ranchers, local citizens groups to protect themselves in this environment that we're in, which we would call a semi-permissive environment in the military, which is kind of like being next door to Iraq during the Iraq War. You're not in the war, but you're sure close. And that's where we're at. We're in a semi-permissive environment on the Texas border, all the way up to the Red River and then some, probably even further now that all these illegals have gone way up into some of the bigger cities. I mean, it's there are tens of millions that are in this country right now. Not all of them are bad. I got it. A lot of family units, things like that. But the ones that are bad, that are here, they came out of prisons like the Aragua prison in Venezuela. Hence, they formed a gang called the Tren de la Agua, which is a bad bunch of dudes. Makes MS-13 guys look like, Boy Scouts. And then you've got the cartels, which we dealt with several, from the Golfo cartel, the Sinaloas on the west, and everything in between, to include the Cartel del Noreste, the Nuevo Generation, the new generation, the La Línea, which were former cops that became cartel guys in Mexico. So you got all those flavors. And then on top of it, you've got the 150 different nations represented coming across the border, and some of which are coming from some of the countries that support terrorism. So when you see that, and then you tie that in with the big mess that's on the border, the chaos, our job is to take the chaos and control it. In the meantime, what we're doing here is counter human trafficking. We do more of the support role for that with the different elements that could come down here and work, which would include Bazzel's people at Association for Recovery of Children, Craig Sawyer, another guy that's out of Arizona, Salman Sawyer. So you got all these different groups that are doing things, and so we do touch on that quite a bit. But we also look at counter narcotics operations, and then the bigger, higher level smuggling operations, trying to break those down and to identify so we can give information to law enforcement that they could find, fix, and finish those bad guys, meaning put them in jail unless they decide to get in a gunfight. So that's really what we do, and it's just been growing and growing and growing.
To paraphrase Baz, um, talking about the total number of human trafficking victims and how there's only so much he can do, or only so much a team of him and his can do. And he
Right.
always says, it's not meaningless to the people you do rescue, which is 1,000% true. It's a, tell
Yeah, that's
the,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
tell the child you rescue from a bunch of dudes passing around a 5-year-old, to tell them that doesn't matter. But because it is very apparent that not only do you not have the full scope of the U.S. government behind you, and by definition you don't, and obviously it's not you saying this, but I
Yeah.
mean the analogies I always use is when Xi Jinping visited L.A. or San Francisco, you saw what could be done in a moment's notice. You can clean up the
Oh, yeah.
streets, you can have police out there, you can make it just primo real estate. You saw what could happen 3.5 years after January 6th, the FBI, the full awesome power of the surveillance state, what it can do. You see in Iraq, you see in Israel, you see in Taiwan, what the United States can do. We're not omnipotent, but we can do a whole lot very quickly with intense logistics. So when you don't see it at the southern border, it's not that it's just too big of a bill. It just can't be done. You're asking us to solve everything. No, it can be done. They don't want it to be done. So that is a preface. You then have to choose things. You cannot do it all because you
Right.
do not have the backing of the government. And it's not that the government's coming to you and saying, Doc, oh, you're leading up the whatever, the advising in Ukraine. And you go, this is difficult, but if you give me 10 years, $1 trillion, and 100,000 men, we can make a dent. That's not the case. You are dealing with an impossible problem without the help of the federal government. So all of that to say, you then do have to choose things based on priority. What is that priority? And I have no idea if this is
Mhm.
like sensitive and you can't whatever. But I mean, is it the obvious like, hey, that guy's got a backpack nuke, or is it more of a you guys focus on child trafficking, human trafficking? Because you can't get every person that has a
Right.
machete or every person that has a bag of fentanyl. You wish you could, but because you don't have the federal government behind you, they're actually actively working against you.
Mm.
You have to choose
Right.
the VIPs. What's the
Well,
process of that?
yeah, that's a
If
good
you can.
question. Yeah, that's a good question. And from the contracting side of the coin, which is really what this is, although our money comes from donations, but from that side where you're coming in and you're just plussing up the ability for a municipality or a county, really that's the levels we work at. We don't worry about the federal government because they're not going to contract us. Now Trump comes into office, totally different story. But right now, we're just dealing with mostly ranchers and county level authorities. Emergency operations centers. We do a lot of training, a lot of talking, a lot of teaching. It's what Green Berets do. We teach, we force multiply. But in the trafficking world, because we do have some people that are targeters, and we've got a couple that are high level targeters. One specifically is a JSOC, former JSOC guy that's a targeter. So we can identify in the F3 EAD model. So the F3 EAD models are used in Syria to throw ISIS out real quick when Trump said go after them. Obama was there. He didn't let the Americans do anything. Nothing happened but a growth of in a vacuum of ISIS members. So now we had Trump come in. He says fix it. So F3 EAD: find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze, disseminate, and it's a cycle. It's like a OODA loop. observe, orient, decide, act. You get into this loop quickly. We're able to make headway and knock ISIS out of the game. So same thing here, but because of our budget being limited as to just donations, we take a problem set that somebody comes to us with. So if that's their priority, it becomes our priority. So if I have a county sheriff that says, hey, I've got 6 deputies, I've got this problem set, this ranch is getting run over here, need some help, we'll go and advise and assist. And then some of our guys are commissioned officers, also reserve deputies, et cetera, and they can then accompany. So you advise, assist, and accompany is what we call authorities, AAA being through all 3. Most of the time we advise and assist. That might look like us putting some technical devices on the property so they can see them, they can identify them, they can get a quick ring, because some of these properties are huge. I mean, we're talking about 20,000 acre ranches on the border where people are running across, bringing humans and drugs. And so we want to be able to identify those, figure out what their patterns are, and then give those patterns to law enforcement so they can then close the gap on it and try to get to it. We also want to protect the citizens. So rather than putting a guy down there with a gun sitting on a ranch, which we can do, we are protective service detail guys. In the state of Texas, there's 4 different levels, level 1 through 4, 4 being armed and on site. And you're hired by the person to do that. You're kind of like a regulator. You're a hired gun, but it is legal, lawful, and it is recognized by the state of Texas as a law enforcement entity when hired. We haven't done that because we always tell people, look, you don't want to get in a gunfight with a cartel. You get in a gunfight with a cartel and you shoot one of their guys. Everybody in Texas has got a gun. I got it. And we're going to protect ourselves. I got it. But you do that, and there's going to be 20 cartel guys here tomorrow, and they're going to have a lot more guns, and they're going to move a lot quicker because they don't have to worry about response time. They're already there. So we try to teach people how to avoid, to dissuade. Only should they have to defend themselves one-on-one do they draw their rifle or their pistol and get into a gunfight. But that is not what we do, because trying to do that right now would only end up with a lot of problem sets for these people. And they really, they don't have the same amount of training, and we can't be everywhere all the time. So we advise them on how to create what's called denied space, so that we can then keep their property safe, but more importantly, their person safe, their families. And so that's a fine line, but that's what we do. It's what we're trained to do. So we can do that because, when you're talking about unconventional warfare or foreign internal defense, which are bread and butter for us in Green Berets, unconventional warfare is going into countries, small units, just like we did in the beginning of Afghanistan, taking it back from the Taliban. Domestic internal defense is what we're doing. So we're doing internal defense domestically versus foreign internal defense. Never thought I'd have to say that in my lifetime, but that's what we're doing. Domestic internal defense, teaching people how to protect themselves and their property.
And at the risk of, I don't know if you've ever seen those memes on like one of my buddy, Clay Martin, former Green Beret. I think he posted it. There's some meme about just some person like, it's like why it's a good thing old men are fighting in Ukraine. And it was like the thing about old men is they don't have time for your shit. They're going to kill those Ruskies and then go back and have a coffee. And somebody commented like the bloodlust of a liberal with no military experience and no children in the fight will always be unmatched. So I say that to say, as someone with a biology degree that lives in an American city, I have to be careful of myself to be like, well, why don't you just, that all being said, and because I'm 34 and I'm an idiot, how far north from the border is that mindset that you're talking about of don't shoot them because then they're going to come back with 20 more tomorrow? Because, and this is where I have to completely admit I have no experience in any of this shit, and I don't want to have some false bravado.
Yeah.
Is that not already, are you not already on the back foot with that mindset of like, hey, don't shoot them because that just 100,000 foot view that seems like it's already almost like don't
the answer to that is that's a very what if kind of question, and what if questions are fraught with danger because what if you can't set your mind on the what if stuff. You have to train yourself, just like Clay would say, and I know Clay, he comes here all the time. You have to train yourself for the worst case scenario, the most dangerous course of action. You have to be prepared to execute the most dangerous course of action. But a good trained operator will always tell you that it's discretionary fires is what will
Got it.
save you in that initial thing, because we're not talking about Baghdad. All right. So the answer to that question is depends.
Got it.
The permissiveness of the environment dictates it. The rules of engagement of the environment, and the rules of engagement right now are the laws of the state of Texas. So
Got
if
it.
I just see some dude walking across my property and he's, oh, I'm going to shoot him. Well, good luck with that in court. I mean, you're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
But if somebody raises that rifle up towards me, then it's a totally different deal. But false bravado is something we see a lot. I was an enlisted guy. I was an 18-year-old guy with a rifle, and I understand. You just want to shoot everybody, but you can't, because discretionary fires are the things that are going to dictate how you mass your fires when you get into that real gunfight, not where the false bravado thing. So the tactical maturity that comes along with multiple years of doing this stuff teaches you how to be discretionary, but also how to get in a fight when you need to, and then don't get in a fight when you don't need to when you're in the minority. You got the majority, hey, and you got the law enforcement behind you, and you've got your fire
Go
team
for
with
it.
you. Totally different deal.
Yeah.
But if you're out there living on a ranch, that's why it's totally dependent. I mean, it's different than a city. You're living on a ranch, and you've got two farm hands that are helping you, two ranch hands, and they've got guns. Everybody's strapped in Texas. You could protect yourself, but you go looking for a fight. You go looking for it, and you're bringing it to you. Now you're smacked a bee's nest, and you might win that first one, but then you're going to deal with subsequent. So it's you're never on your heels when you're ready for the most dangerous course of action.
Got
That's
it.
a mindset thing, and that is something that's not that easy to teach,
Got it.
because mindset is everything in this business. This is 90% of what you do in combat right here in your brain. The 10% is what you've trained to do, and you never, ever, ever rise to the occasion. People say, well, I'm going to rise to the occasion. I read this book the other day, and you fall back to your training. So if you don't have the training, then how can you ever say that, I'm going to be ready for a gunfight when you've never even been in one? It's impossible, impossible. And so the thing to do is to, obviously get as trained as you can, be as disciplined as you can, but always be thinking, what would I do if right now I'm out here on my horse and I'm running the backcountry, or I'm walking down a street in a city and somebody decides to stab me in the neck like they're doing to people in London? That's the kind of mindset that's going to make you what I call left to bang. You're gonna get there before the IED goes off, right? You're gonna get to where you can avoid the IED or the stabbing in the neck or the gunshot or the getting rolled up at a gas station at 2 a.m. when you're not paying attention to who's watching you.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. Situational awareness 101. Unfortunately, most of our generations right now, most people are sitting there with this thing about a foot away from their face, not paying attention, which guys like me capitalize on. I've walked through countries as a singleton operator and walked right by jihadists that are not even paying attention because they're sitting there looking at their cell phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it,
No,
it's a lot of answers. It's a lot of it's like asking somebody, okay, how do you build a watch? Well,
yeah.
first I got to teach you how to tell time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Then you
it's
go back
just such a
farther than
deep
that.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Where do I get the pieces? Well, there's metal pieces. How do you make metal? You're like, well, you got to smelt and melt iron ore. Like, what's
exactly,
ore? You're like,
exactly.
good Lord. Like,
But
you got,
situational awareness,
yeah.
mindset is really the cornerstone of the whole thing. Matter of fact, when I teach my classes on mindset, it is the very base to all the training. Now we can talk firearms. So you got to be able to shoot, move, communicate, medicate. So the base of that, though, is mindset. It's at the bottom, right? Here's your base mindset. And then you start doing the different training iterations: shoot, move, communicate, medicate. So, but the base of it is mindset. And then when you get that, everything falls into place. So that way, the what if question, it's kind of like we call in the military a battle drill.
Yeah.
React to fire. Okay, well, I can't train for 1,000 different ways that we could get shot at, but I can train for what my actions will be under that engagement, so that I either attack the fires or I pull back and get to a covered position. But I have some basic things that I do every time, and that covers all the what ifs.
So again, me having no experience in that, but to a degree, I do kind of see what you're talking about. I mean, this
Yeah.
is episode 1564. And I
Mm-hmm.
use the same daily ritual that I did getting into medical school as I do doing this. 8 hours of
Right.
sleep, non-negotiable. Go do some body
Good.
weights, go do some bench press, some pull-ups, some abs, some push-ups, go do a little bit of cardio, get at least some in, come back up, 20 to 30 minutes, non-negotiable meditation and or prayer. You come into the show, and then it's just a rectangle on my iMac. I don't do scripted questions. I don't do, let's
Mhm.
hit these points. It's just I got an hour. And it's like, well, how do you prepare for that? You prepare for it by getting a full night's sleep, going to getting some anaerobic and aerobic exercise, calming your mind, get in touch with
There you go.
God. Then you turn it on and you go, who am I talking today? All right, Doctor Green Beret. All right, tomorrow could have on, historian. You approach with
Mhm.
the same studying organic chemistry. What do? You wake up, go to the gym, wake yourself up, meditate, slow your mind down, and then you go to work. And in a sense, there's nothing you can do to plan. And in the same breath, there's only one thing to do, and it's you have your morning ritual. I come into this, and then this is like this 1 hour is, I guess, what's the equivalent of like my kill box.
Right.
Everything it's all to my advantage. I'm up at the time I want to be up. I'm caffeinated. I'm hydrated. Take a shit. Like it is. I come in. It's my hour, and then I can just do to the best of my ability. And so in that
That's
sense,
it.
it'd be like if someone said, "What do you do? What do you do if Dr. Chambers asked you, what's your thoughts
Yeah.
on aliens?" I'm like, "Well, that's a one in a trillion, and if he does, I'll
Yeah.
tell you what I do. I get a full night's sleep. I make sure I'm wide awake. I'm just so you
Yeah,
just
there you go.
so I, okay,
Yeah,
I
because
got
you're
that.
prepared for any questions. It's
Got it.
me on my side is getting on all these shows, and there will be the questions that will challenge you.
Sure.
And I do this for me. It's I give the things, I've testified in federal cases and testified on the Hill and done some things. I always give facts, right? If I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. And if you want
Yeah.
me to speculate, I will. And then I will give you a scenario between the most likely course of action to the most dangerous,
Mm.
right? So that way you know that this is the spectrum of what it is. So if somebody says, well, are we going to be in a fight this year against the deep state or against the zombies? uh, Highly unlikely, but if it did, this is
But
what it would look like,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because I don't have, if I know, like if I read the playbook right now, I captured some guy from the army of zombie, and I said, "Hey, dude, when are you guys going to attack?" And he told me, I'd say, "Hey, guess what? I just found out that they're attacking on the 17th of October,
yeah,
right?" And then I would tell you.
yeah.
But until then, I go on facts, and the facts are that everything is based on patterns, right? Pattern analysis. That's why guys like me or Clay, who've seen war, who've seen what it looks like, have gone to places in the very beginning of war and understand what it smells like, will say, "Well, here's the patterns I saw, and this is where it fits the pattern or doesn't fit the pattern." And that's the kind of intelligence that I want because that's called actionable intelligence. It's not just some analyst sitting behind a computer that's reading somebody else's information that doesn't know it firsthand. I'd
Mm.
rather trust my sniper scouts that are telling me on the radio, "Hey, sir, there's 500 Taliban inbound." Okay, but my analyst says the likelihood of Taliban approaching this location is approximately 2.5%. Yet my guys are seeing it, telling me they're on their way, right? Okay, probably need to listen to the guys that are seeing it, but it's
Right.
facts. It's fact. And to me, analysts are good. They give you
Sure.
statistics, but they don't have eyes on at the tactical level. They're looking at the operational level, which is down here is tactical, operational, strategic, geopolitical, and all that above. We're looking at the tactical, especially on us on the border, tactical to the operational level. We
Mm.
interface with people at the strategic level, but those people write white papers. We use
Mm.
white papers to start fires when it's cold at night on the border. You know, we are not a think tank. We're a do tank.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you do with the new Rand study about the implications of human trafficking on diversity? Well, I'd lit it on fire and I wiped my ass with it. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
okay.
that's kind of what we do. So when people ask us, "Are you a think tank?" Because this resembles that. No, we're a do tank.
Mm.
Because we action things. We get information, but we get it from the sources that we develop. Right? We develop those sources. So some dude on the border that's a citizen journalist will call me. This happens every day, and say, "Hey, I'm a citizen journalist down here in the Rio Grande Valley. I'm seeing this, and what do you think?" And I'm like, "Bro, give me some more information." So then that could turn into something that we could then investigate, because then we can go to the county sheriff and say, "Hey, are you seeing this in your county?" And they may say, "No, we don't even see it." Well, the citizen journalist is saying it. Now we're putting it on them to action it. And if they don't action it, then we have choices. Then we can expose the fact that this sheriff doesn't want to do anything. Now we're not going after sheriffs, but that can happen. I mean, we run into different flavors of sheriffs all the time. 254 counties in Texas, and I've met with a lot of them, and there's some great people. But there's some other guys. They still want to get into the mix. They just, sitting on their hands. Then you got knuckleheads like the guy in Bexar County, which is San Antonio, who spoke at the DNC convention saying that Kamala Harris is doing a great job on the border. Well, that guy obviously has sold his soul and he's playing politics. Now, we don't play politics. We don't, I never did in the military and I still don't now. I don't focus on DC or anything they say. Focus on what happens from the state level down, because that's where the rubber meets the road, right? That's where you live in a world of reality and not optics.
Roger.
Yeah.
So is it, and then in terms of the actual doing, the do
Mm-hmm.
tank, is it something where is it almost triage? Do you go, hey,
Can be.
we specialize in rescuing children, and you wish you could get everyone, you wish you could get every guy that got fentanyl, or every 50-year-old being
Yeah.
trafficked, but we specialize in this. This is what we do.
Yeah. I'm tracking what you're saying. So the answer from that comes from Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu said to know yourself and know the enemy, you know the outcome of 1,000 battles, right?
Hmm.
So we know our capabilities and we know the size of our element. We know the people that we work with and we know the size of their element, what their capabilities are. If you come to me and say, hey, looks like 20,000 Venezuelan guys that just got out of jail are going to show up in Del Rio tomorrow, I'm probably not going to be able to do much for that, right? Because I know what our capabilities are. But if they said, hey, there's a cell of them and they're working in El Paso, can you help us investigate that? Then I'll send one of our PI guys down with a security guy, and they'll go and start investigating that. And they'll look at the reality of it and say, here's reality, boss. This is what they really got. Okay, good. So that's the thing is when you're looking at chaos, here's the rule. This is the rule for chaos. There was a lady named Linda Robinson. She wrote a book about the Green Berets called The Masters of Chaos. All right, it's a pretty good book. And what she said is that, and we know from training and from living it, is when you're handed a bucket of chaos, right? Everybody's bucket is different, what they can handle. We might handle a 55-gallon drum. You got to control the controllables. So know what you can do. What can you control? The rest of it, you got to cut sling load on all the rest of those thoughts, because if I can control one little piece of it, I will. When my parachute starts to malfunction and I go to my emergency procedures and I try to figure out what to do, I don't sit there and figure out, well, I wonder how fast I'm falling to the ground, or I wonder if I'm going to look like, a piece of, spaghetti when I'm done. No, you sit there and go controllable, first emergency procedure, and then you pop your reserve, whatever it takes. Those pilots will tell you the same thing. When they run out of fuel in flight, if that happens, you didn't fill up right, but whatever happens, you don't let go of the yoke, the stick, right? You fly the plane and then you figure it out. Control what you control first. Same thing in this. Find the things that you know your capabilities will match up with. Understand what the enemy's capabilities are, the enemy being chaos in this case, and then say, I can handle this piece. And so I have to be really honest with people when they say, I get a sheriff that called me the other day and said, hey, we got this major, thing that's happening here, and we're going to require like 20 dudes. I'm like, I can't cut away 20 dudes. We might have that total altogether in our group, but I have other groups. Let me fish around, try to find you somebody, right? And so that's where transparency, honesty, and knowing what you can do and controlling the controllable is going to help you in the chaos bucket that you're working in, because it is a chaos bucket down there. I've been down there twice when there was 17,000 Haitians showed up in Del Rio a couple years ago. We had about 50 National Guard guys there, and then another time, December 18th of this last year, 12,500. This is just in 24 hours. Showed up in Eagle Pass from Venezuela, and they were just released from jails. So when you're talking about 12,500 people in a small area in a short period of time, it's chaos. And now at that point, you've got to figure out, okay, where do I start looking for the troublemakers, for where they're moving stuff around the edges, because they're going to do an end around. If you ever seen in football, you feign the running up the 3-4 slot, but you actually do a flea flicker and they go out to the left. I'm going to pay attention to that, right? So I'm like an outside linebacker looking at the eyes of the people, and I'm not the lineman. I'm looking at from a little behind the line there and going, oh, I see what they're doing, and I'm moving that way, right? Because I've got to move fast and got to intercept, or I've got to meet that oncoming fentanyl load, or whatever it is that they're going to move around all these bodies coming up the middle, which are just family units that they're using as pawns on the border. It's a game of whack-a-mole. It really is. Um, that's just how it looks. So it's pretty simple, yet it's complicated. And the reason it's complicated is because of you got to have some experience to know what it looks like. Just like any pattern. What
Mm.
does the pattern look like? What are they going to do?
So then, in terms of what I imagine is it almost like women and children first? Is it if I can only impact X, Y, and Z,
Hmm.
it has to be, I mean, the most
Yeah,
innocent among us, the most vulnerable among us. It's children.
absolutely. Yeah, that's the focus. But every once in a while you run into stuff that's you're just going to see in plain view. Cops talk about plain view doctrine. They talk about exigent circumstances, emergent circumstances. Somebody commits a felony over here right in front of you, and you're over here writing a ticket. I mean, this is what you're doing, but this happens over here. It steps up. I've had to go from, doing medical stuff to pulling my gun on a guy that was going to hijack a lady's car in a moment's notice like that.
Hmm.
And so now I've got a guy at gunpoint with a lady who's got two kids in the car. He's about to hijack it. So you have to change based upon the scenario you're in. So that's a change of mission, we would call that. Those things do happen. The priorities for the recovery work, definitely the most innocent, right? That's what we're working on. And those things are not just about recovering that kid. It is that, but from that comes a sensitive site exploitation of information. When you've got this guy, now he's arrested and he's sitting in a cell somewhere, and the cops are talking to him saying, all right, who else is with you? And then you can then expose and exploit that particular cell, that next one, and then find, fix, and finish them in the F3 EAD thing. So it's got to move fast. It's got to be, joint operation. And some law enforcement just doesn't want to work with you, and some do. It's just the way it is. There are people that are risk averse. There are people that are, on the take. Not as many,
Hmm.
but there are people that are on the take, and they don't want to see the problem set end anytime soon because they're enjoying whatever that they're getting from it. And it may just be, extra money from the state. I don't know. State does get funding for emergency situations, but um, I can't speak for everybody, but I just know that I've seen it. I've seen it.
So I imagine there's a level of there's got to be a not to be like dramatic or some shit, but
Mhm.
there's got to be a level of inner turmoil which you're constantly trying to put to peace, right? You see me getting trafficked. I'm 34. I'm a dude. I've lived a great life. I would hope someone would save me, but I don't have the priority of like a 3-year old. I just don't. And
Yeah.
it's just what it is. I would do the
Mhm.
same thing. It's
Yeah.
there's got to be a level of kind of I don't know, speaking to God and being like, before you saw like I wish I could go after every person, but I can't. And it is truly
Yeah.
a hellish dilemma. I mean, it's satanic, but it's like, who do you want to rescue more? You have to make that hardcore decision of
Yeah. There's definitely the lanes that you're in. Sometimes the decision to change mission, the decision to change the commander's intent or the mission statement. That's an important thing. There has to be criteria for that. So we use what we call decision points to say if it reaches this level and we're on this particular thing, but then something else comes up, it's not we're going to pull off that mission. If we have eyes on, we're going to rescue the person. But if it's something while we're doing the lead work on it, and then something comes in that's a little more important in the sense of something could potentially hurt a mass of people. We receive information there's a terrorist cell that's going to do something that's going to damage a group of people in a stadium, let's say. We're definitely going to get on that. It's not our primary focus, but if you run into information, bad guys talk, and you end up talking to one of them and you find out something else, it might be a change of mission. That hasn't happened yet at that level, but that's an example.
hmm.
Because I've seen it happen on my military side many times in the past, a change of mission. Mm-hmm. So
There's
it's
really
it's it's great work. I love it. I mean, we're busy and I don't have to salute anybody, which is kind of nice.
yeah, no, it's hey man, it's Teddy Roosevelt, by far and away, the best aspect of this life is working hard towards something worth working hard towards. That's
That's
it. I
right.
mean, that really is the kind of Buddhist before Nirvana, chop wood, carry water, or after enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
That's right.
It is a glory. I guess that would be a way to frame it, is saying
Yeah,
that, thinking about, man, I have to choose who to save. The other way to look at it is like, what an incredible difference you must be making in this world, that the evil forces are saying. There's some quote like, I hope when I die all of hell rejoices.
yeah, yeah.
There is something kind of hardcore about, like, hey, you're being thrown these dilemmas of who to save because they have no other way to defeat you. So instead it's like, all right, you got to choose now. That means you're really doing something with your existence. So I
That's
guess
right.
on the alternative side, it's kind of gracious. It's like,
Yeah.
thank you for this fight. I mean, can you imagine
Oh
if,
yeah, we
yeah,
definitely pray for the fight. I mean, it's this is the remnant ministry, so we are a ministry,
yeah,
and so our guys, on our team, we have certain set of rules, and we understand that our pathways are guided, and that there's a tapestry, we call it a tapestry of God, and that we make choices, and it can send us on a different path, no doubt, but if we remain true to who we are, and we are noble warriors, and we are warrior monks in some cases, then we focus on the mission. Nobody's getting paid on this team. We don't take
yeah,
any pay. Nobody gets a paycheck and deposits it. That's different than a lot of other contract jobs where people are getting paid and they're 1099 and all that. We're just using 100% of our funds for operations, for mission.
mm,
Operations look different, and they can come in tomorrow. I had Alex Jones, was his set was going to be shut down, and they said, hey, we're going to shut down the set, and I said, all right, I'm going to come down with my dog and a dude, and we're going to stand there, and if the feds come in and they don't have the proper paperwork, we're not going to let them in the door.
yeah,
Now that they got to stay on that, and they were able to get a temporary stay on that, closing down his shop, and then they stayed open because the court worked out in his favor. But for a period of time there, that was a mission. It's protecting
sure,
freedom of speech. I told him when I got on the set, because he asked me to get on with him. I said, well, it's good to be at the Alamo of free speech today.
yeah.
Because that's what that was. I didn't even know I was gonna be on the show. I was just standing at the front with my dog, and he said, "Hey, get on the show. Get over here.
Hey, hey, get in
Get your
here.
dog over here." So I did, it's just it's the tapestry. It's the guiding of the steps, because we are created for moments such as this. That's an Esther, talks about. That's where we're at, and
Yeah.
if we firmly believe that, and every one of my guys lives that way. None of us are perfect. We're all a bunch of knuckleheads that carry rifles, or
Mm-hmm.
did for many years.
Sure.
But we also know how to work in the environments that I talked about, being permissive, semi-permissive, and non-permissive. Non-permissive is the one we don't want to get to. So why 90%, well, it's about 75% of the reason we do what we do is we want to have an infrastructure built so that if things go south, we can quickly rise out like a phoenix out of the ashes to protect our communities.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I don't have the tea leaves on that one. I don't know when
Yeah.
if that's going to happen, or what parts of the country are going to turn into that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some places are already like that.
Yeah. But again, there's nothing to do but 8 hours of sleep, stay hydrated,
Yeah,
show up, and
yeah.
and be ready to rock. Yeah, Alex Jones. I got to meet Alex Jones in 2021, and yeah, that guy's awesome. Hey, good in
Oh,
here. What are you doing? I went there on New Year's Eve with Dr. McCullough, and he like came in. He's like, "You want ribs?" It was like 9 a.m., and I was like, "Yeah, I guess, sure." He's like, "We're having ribs today. Welcome to Texas." I was like, "Thanks, man." Yeah, he's a crazy guy. No,
yeah. He's become a good friend in this fight. He was the first guy that got me on the show back
yeah.
a couple of years ago when I
You
was
had
a
the
whistleblower.
you had the calamari the blood clots. I remember one of my I first heard your name was, I remember
Yeah.
sitting there with those like vials.
Well, that was a different guy, but yeah, I was
Oh, I
talking
thought it
about it
was
with
you.
him. But yeah, I was just needing somebody to listen to me because I was on the border with these
Yeah.
soldiers, and so he was the first guy to get me on the show. I was still technically in the military. I wasn't in uniform, but I did get a lot of grief for that because they said, "What are you doing getting on this show?" And
Good.
like,
Good.
sorry.
Yeah, I got you, man. I started this podcast in December 2019. I was banned from YouTube the following year for having on Dr. Robert Malone
There you
before he went
go.
on Rogan, and he was very vanilla. Was like, now he has since even gotten more like radical, but at the time he was like, yeah, if you're young and healthy, you hit the gym every day, you probably don't need it. But if you're older, I'd get it. And that got me kicked off YouTube. No, now he's like, don't get it at all. But at the time, it was such a vanilla, and that's what led.
Yeah.
That's kind of the guiding force behind this podcast was like, yeah, I'll just get on doctors, and then we'll have a mature conversation, and everything will pan out. And now I'm like, oh no, this is a bioweapon, and I'm interrupting an operation. Of course, they're gonna ban me from everything. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, that
Yeah.
led me to Alex Jones too. So you don't.
Yeah.
Some people don't like the guy. The guy is stuck up for free speech and has been correct more times than most people will be in 100 lifetimes. And
Yeah, that's it.
and
And he's
he's
always
got
been there.
balls.
And
Yeah,
I would stop anything I was doing to go help
a
him. So
thousand percent.
yeah.
1,000%. Yeah. But Dr. Chambers, I said I'd let you go. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Great.
We'll have to do another one. We'll have to get Baz in here.
Oh yeah, we'll get a three-way with him. That'd be good. I'd,
Beautiful.
I'd like to have him on.
That would
I'll
be
call him and
awesome.
check and see how he's doing.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So, but for now, thank you so much for your time. It was an honor to meet you. It was a pleasure. Keep
Same.
doing the Lord's work. And as I've told Baz, ARC, Association for the Recovery of Children, all that stuff's in the description for the people listening. But you guys have my podcast is yours. It's your megaphone. You tell me when you're coming on, we're coming on, and whether it's fundraising or whether it's talking about current events, I have to do something. And you
Yep.
guys are doing 99% of it. If I just have to let you sit on the soapbox, hey, I'm more than happy to. And I'm
Yeah.
more
If your folks want to get to my site, it's the remnantministrytx.org. You might have it posted, but
I'll put down, I'm going to say,
yeah,
let me
the
write it down.
remnantministrytx.org.
And then Ministry TX.
Yeah.
All
There you
right.
go, brother.
Dude, thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you for your
Have a good
time.
one.
You too, sir.
Be
Thank
careful. And if you can't be careful, be violent. All right.
That's awesome. Guys,
There
thank
you
you so
go.
much for watching. Dr. Chambers, thank you.